My name is Lisa Stewart. Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom from the Cauldron. Today we're going to be talking about speaking the language of the craft of the wise. You know, many people come to this path as a solitary, and they don't have someone else that they can talk to about what's going on in their lives or what they're being drawn to. So they start reading a bunch of books. And, you know, there are thousands, literally thousands of books on Wicca and witchcraft. What I'd like to ask you is to be mindful, if you're going to choose some books to read, about whose work you're reading. Now, first and foremost, I would always recommend Doreen Valiente, the mother of witchcraft. She was Gerald Gardner's high priestess, and she has made a huge contribution to the craft of the wise. So anything that you can read by Doreen Valiente would be a great place to start. Another person whose books I can always recommend is my dear friend Kate West, who is the high priestess of the Hearth of Hecate's Coven. She came across the same sort of feeling that witchcraft was being diluted and that people all over were just getting bits and pieces of the information that was out there, or receiving regurgitated information that got diluted because someone read someone else's book and decided to write their own book. But Kate did a series of books called The Real Witches. So all of them have that in the beginning of the title. There's like The Real Witches Spell Book, The Real Witches Cookbook. And I think that those would be a great place to start if you wanted to read something from an actual high priestess. And then certainly I would recommend anything written by Janet and Stuart Farrar, Janet Farrar and Gavin Bone. So they are people who have really dedicated themselves to the craft of the wise, and their work certainly shows that. But that said, this is a mystery path, and much of what goes on connecting you to this path is personal experience. So when you're reading someone else's book, you're really experiencing their experience of the craft. So the only way to really become a witch is to become a working witch. By that I mean casting circle and building a relationship with deity, speaking the language and immersing yourself in the experiences of witchcraft. Now, what do I mean by speaking the language? Well, let's imagine that you were going to visit a foreign country, a country that you had no idea how to speak that language. You could certainly use symbols. You could point to things, and it would be understood that a particular tool carried a particular energy. So if you pointed to something on a billboard or at a bus stop, people might understand what you meant. So you would be getting in touch with that culture or that energy, but it would sort of be on a very mundane level. Now please understand, all of these tools do carry an energy, and they are an extension of you and the work that you're doing. So maybe you go and you get a phrase book, and you can leaf through that phrase book as if it were like a book of shadows. And you slowly start to speak some of the words because you can see them written. But maybe you're not really sure how they're pronounced, and you might insult somebody by mispronouncing their name. And if you are like any typical person, you speak the language very poorly in the beginning when you're reading it from a book. So again, although you could perform some spells and you might have an understanding of the formulary of that, you really wouldn't be that in touch with the culture or the nature of what's going on. But once you have a true command of the language, once you speak that language fluently, and you know all the slang, all the ins and outs, exactly how it's going to work, then you start to truly understand that culture and how to truly conduct yourself within that culture. So please understand that it's very important that you do have a working relationship, that you speak the language of the athame, that you understand what the chalice represents, that you do have a way to create a sacred space, that you do use a pentacle on your altar. All of these tools have a certain energy and they carry a meaning within your circle. There will be a lot of Wicca 101 classes here in the Pearls of Wisdom, and I would love for you to look into that if that's something that you really want to do. But understand, we do things in ritual that you read in a book that you might not really be connecting with. For example, you know, it says to have 4 candles on your altar that represent the 4 elements. But it's so much more than that. They're really the lights for the watchtowers. You certainly would not expect an air elemental to reside in a candle, nor would you expect a water elemental to reside in a candle. Certainly it's okay to have a fire candle for the fire elementals, but you should have something on your altar that makes you a good host for the other energies that are coming. Also, you know, dabbling is fine, you have to start somewhere, but try to really see what's going on. Now, building a magical relationship with deity is also really important. You could say, well, I'm not sure who my big good thing is. And it might take you a while to find who's guiding you or who's speaking to you. But it is really important to build a magical relationship with a family. And by that I mean choose a pantheon. So don't just call upon a deity that you read in a book does a certain thing that you want to do. You know, maybe you think, oh, I need healing, I'm going to call on Hygeia. Or, oh, I need prosperity, I'm going to call on Lakshmi today. Or mix and match and be eclectic. If you don't build a relationship and have a commitment to a family, why would you then expect that deity to have a commitment to you? I believe it was Doreen Valiente who said that prayer is asking deity and meditation is listening to deity. So spend some time getting to know the mother and father of your work. And once you know them and once you build a relationship with them, it will allow you to let the craft of the wise become a way of life. You will truly have a place to belong and a place that is understanding who you are as much as you understand what's going on. So the first thing I would say to you again is go ahead and read those books. They all have great information. But the most important thing is to start doing the work, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Now, Circle in a Box is something that we made to help people who are solitary practitioners who maybe don't have an understanding of how a ritual works or how to create a sacred space. It can also be used in small or large groups. And again, you don't necessarily need all of these tools all at once. But allow yourself time to get to know a magical family. And if you're lucky enough to have a working group of witches that would take you under their wing, well, that's even better. But for now, think about building a relationship and thinking about being a good friend to those elemental energies and being a good friend to the god and goddess. Again, if you only call to them when you need something, you're not a very good friend. If you only heard from someone because they wanted to borrow your car or $20 or, have you take them somewhere, if they only petitioned you when they wanted something, you wouldn't see them as a very good friend. But if they were loyal and you had a working relationship with them, it would be a lot easier for you to work your magic. So that's a little snippet, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. You can always email me, lisa@awarenessshop.com, if you want some suggestions for what to read or a little more information on the magical tools. And again, keep your eyes and ears open for Pearls of Wisdom from the Cauldron, which is Awareness TV's workshop and classroom channel. Thank you very much. Blessed be.